Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Rum. This is a podcast of two brothers from opposite ends of the spectrum. My name's Kent. I'm a rum drinker, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon, tend to be a little more conservative. Join us as we explore this experiment. Can two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum have a civil conversation and celebrate our differences?
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking a little bit of Blanton's today. Picked up a bottle up in Connecticut. They had it all over the place for like MSRP. So yeah, I mean, it's $75, but not bad. It's a great bottle. It was invented in 1984 by a guy named Elmer T. Lee. He was a master distiller, and he created really the first mass-produced single barrel bourbon. And he named it after this guy, Colonel Albert Blanton, who had been one of the main distiller guys there. But I guess his thing is he used to go pick out like VIP bottles. So they make them in this, or they age them in this warehouse H. And he was known for going and finding really good bottles. And so they named it after him. And it's, came out in the 80s. And I guess, like we used to talk, you said you used to buy it all the time. And then it got, caught up in the bourbon craze. And now it's super hard to find. But they've been doubling output supposedly. So, maybe we'll start seeing cases of it at the liquor store soon. We'll see.
Well, cool. Good
what
deal.
you got going?
Well, I'm shaking it up a little bit today. I have a bottle of Pendleton Canadian whiskey, and I wanted to just raise a little toast to Prime Minister of Canada and, Justin Trudeau. I'm just giving you props here. So a little Canadian whiskey, a little tariff protest on my part here. So
you drinking it straight?
Just a mild old fashioned out of it.
Oh, nice. That Pendleton is really good stuff.
Yeah, I'd say it's actually, I don't need more drinking in my life, so I'm pretty stable with the couple of rums I have with you each week. But if I were looking to fill out a alcohol profile, Canadian whiskey is hard to go bad with. It's just, it's a consistent thing. It's not as nuanced or subtle as these fancy bourbons that you get. But man, you know what you're going to get when you open a bottle of Pendleton or a VO or a Crown Royal, and it's nice.
I'm on the Buffalo Trace here. Buffalo Trace has a partnership. One of the things they spit out is a Canadian whiskey. It's called Caribou Crossing. And I guess they get the whiskey from Canada. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but that's really good too. It's another one that's hard to find, but yeah, it's Canadian.
Well, I think about Canadian whiskey, like Canadian Club, was famous for during Prohibition, Canadian whiskey really took off because with a decent boat, you could get a couple of cases across the Detroit River from Windsor without batting an eye into Detroit. And so that was a trade war that worked out really to the benefit of Canadian distillers. Well, I suggested as a topic, and we can talk about anything you want. There's lots going on, but something really caught my attention was on Friday, the announcement that the administration was, I don't have the exact wording, rescinding about $400 million in research grants to Columbia University. And their reasoning was that Columbia had insufficiently protected Jewish students against anti-Semitism while there were protests going on about the war in Gaza. But this is interesting on multiple levels. I think we could pick apart a little bit about what the current message politics are around what they did. But it also goes into a topic that I'm at least knowledgeable about and have opinions about, and that's...
For full disclosure, Kent works for a university.
I do. About university finance and the role of grants, particularly federal government, in the funding of higher education and universities in this country, and why I think that's a good thing and why I think it is dangerous. And so my question is, do you believe that this really is just about, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you make of this? So let me ask you that.
Well, I think it's a topic that is of concern to a lot of people, especially a lot of conservative people that see a lot, especially the elite universities, as being far left echo chambers. And I think, what you saw over the last year with the rise of anti-Semitism at Columbia, which was well documented and I think pretty undisputed, is, didn't think that they're doing enough, and they pulled the funding, citing Title VI. And so there is some precedence for that in other universities that have, had rampant discrimination. And it sounds like the positive thing I see out of this, it sounds like the new president is, recognizes it's a problem, and maybe they take active steps to fix it. I don't think federal funding is something that is completely unconditional, especially if people are fearful that they're treating others poorly. I don't have an issue with anybody demonstrating about anything, but at the same time, I do think especially these universities, there's been studies. In fact, at Columbia, there was a study that showed the faculty is like 30-1, far left versus anybody on the right. And I don't even care about that, but these places are not a place where, it's just funny to me that a lot of the arguments against this are like, wow, this is impinging on free speech. Well, these places don't have a particularly good track record on free speech if your speech is on the other side of the aisle. And I think that's a huge problem. So, but I recognize also that this was not I can certainly accept the criticism that this was a blunt force approach, which probably lacks some, it wasn't like it was it was kind of a wide swath. And I'm sure that's probably where you're going down the path of, the implications of that. But I don't think the underlying issue is something that is invalid. And I think it's something that a lot of us feel is a problem.
Yeah, a couple things on that. Obviously, university campuses are liberal places. This is not new, and this shouldn't shock anybody. And it's probably inherent to the nature of the work, and it's always going to be that way. And I don't think that's a problem. I think it's, by definition, good for students to be exposed to a lot of viewpoints. You are right that some universities have struggled with how to be as even-handed in the application of First Amendment and free speech to multiple sides. That has been a problem at multiple universities and their campuses. The usual thing that happens is they get dinged because they disinvite a conservative speaker from coming. But it is not never that some of those people that are so-called conservative speakers are also advocating for violence, and that is a line that I think we can and should draw. So it's a little, yeah. I'm a pretty absolutist on free speech, and I think that the antidote to crappy speech is more speech. And universities have struggled with that a little bit, but I don't think that I take a lot of umbrage at sort of the characterizations of universities. It's what I've put my life and career into, and I feel really strongly about it. My education was really foundational for me and changed my life, and I think it's really important. All that said, the thing that really zeroed me on this grant thing is what I would call lunacy of thinking that the federal government is giving money to Columbia University. Doesn't work that way. Does not work that way. Those grants were all grants that were funding research by various labs, and those grants were made in a competitive application process. So I understand you're trying to muscle on something that you don't agree with. But think about how this works. So these grants are competitively awarded to faculty members. You got a guy who's doing research into Alzheimer's disease. They run their labs essentially like entrepreneurs. They seek their own funding. Senior research faculty at big universities generate many, many multiples of their own salaries in grant funding. So these are independent labs that are working as independent contractors. And we're going to really stick it to Columbia University, but you're not. You're sticking it to the faculty members and the researchers that are doing the actual work. I could probably go on more than you want me to. I think it's important to recognize too, and I think people don't get this, the business of an R1 or a top research university in this country, the business is not educating students. Educating students is a sideline to the research business. That's the business that you're in if you're in a big university. And that's the competitive seeking of research grants that further knowledge in fields that the federal government has already, and Congress has already decided were important. That's why those grant programs exist.
But they're also contracts. And those contracts do have the stipulation that they follow the law, including Title VI, and not discriminate, regardless of whether the discrimination is related to that specific topic area. So, I mean, it's not certainly there will be legal challenges, I'm sure, and, we'll see if those actually hold up in court. But it's not just there is a tie-in that has to be followed. You know what I mean? It's not like it's just I don't know how I'm trying to characterize.
No, I'm with you. I'm with
you know what I mean?
that.
They're citing an actual requirement, I guess is my point.
Yeah. Again, if you want to play it out, the faculty member doesn't have that much influence. But be it as may, you're right. I mean, you can say they're within their rights. A couple of things leap to mind there. First of all, now who's doing the enforcement of this? Who was leading the charge on this? Oh, it was the Department of Education.
Well, the NIH and the GSA also.
Well, after they got ordered to, but I think the Department of Education is the one that is responsible for enforcing this Title VI that you speak of, as well as Title IX that affects women's sports and all of the things that people love. It's handled by the Education Department that we don't need in this country because we're anti-education.
Well, I don't think we need the 3x budget that we have in education over 5 years ago. But
what did you track that down? What caused that? An increase in the budget that much? You'd sent me some data about how much the budget is inflated, but you kind of glossed over the 2 last years of the Trump administration where it was like $3 trillion.
Education budget in FY19 was $104 billion. 24 is 268.
Wow. So is there line items on that? What changed? That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, anyway, so you said, I think this is the thing. Is it really just people are feeling so bad for the Jewish students at Columbia that didn't feel protected? Is that the thing that's got everybody up? Is it what you said that y'all think that universities are too liberal and we're going to go after them?
No, I don't think they're too liberal. And I don't have a problem with the 30-to-1 faculty ratio. What I have a problem is the lack of free speech on these campuses, because you say you're for free speech, but not if you're a right-leaning voice. I mean, good luck wearing a MAGA hat at Columbia University. I sure as hell wouldn't do it. One of the things that, I'll say that I actually appreciate of the DEI movement, because, when I was at Boeing when a lot of that was implemented, and some of it I actually really identify with and appreciate. And one of the things is that diversity can make you stronger. Like if you've got a bunch of people that are all saying the same thing and all have the same life experience, that team is not going to be as strong as a team where you have people with crazy different worldviews, because then you get into some type of situation where you're digging into something and you're like, well, no, well, what about this? And you start seeing perspectives you never thought possible.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I feel like that's such a double standard, because they're like, oh, we want to hear all voices. No, you don't. You don't want to hear all voices, because there's some places you don't want to hear. And, I think, it's like this research that takes place. Is it good for research long term if everybody thinks the same way? I don't think it is. And yeah, okay, your political views, okay, you could say your political views don't have anything to do with your scientific views, but I mean, the core tenet of diversity is that you listen to all sides. And, it goes all the way to our podcast here. Like, we have a problem in this country with everybody listening to all sides, but I feel like it's a huge problem at universities.
Well, it is a problem. I think that, is it a huge problem, and is it a universal problem? And look, I've been at universities across the spectrum. I think, yeah, Columbia is probably on the far end of that within the scope of universities. Other universities I served, absolutely not the case. And so it just seems a little silly to paint with a broad brush and say that, I do think that universities have struggled to honor the respect for voices that are on the right. The thing is that there are things that are a part of the MAGA canon that are seen as, I'm trying to think of how to say this, that's not, I tend to lean towards free speech across the board. But I think you would agree that advocating for violence is not okay. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe you don't agree with that.
I agree.
So there's some bounds on it, right? There's the calling fire in a crowded theater. There are some bounds to free speech. There is an element on the right that loves to be provocative and to flirt with or cross the line of calling for violence or mistreatment of certain segments of the population. And that puts the universities in a really difficult spot, right? If you're saying that I don't think trans people exist, that if university has trans students and trans faculty members, and that becomes a problem, and you're bordering on. I think that's part of. That's not the only problem. You're absolutely right that there are some challenges that they have in protecting free speech from the right. I also think some of this is overblown and nonsense. And
but I push you a little bit, Kent, because you do work. You are in the bubble, and not saying that in a negative way, but I don't think this is like a rare extreme right position to say that people have concerns about universities being far left echo chambers. I don't think, I think I could, at least in the bubble that I exist in, I would say 95% of the people would say precisely, and are actually very worried about when their kids get to be in college and going to college. And, I was guy I was working with, his son, he sent his son to Cornell, and he's like, a normal kid in September, and he goes to Cornell and he comes home at Thanksgiving and he's a communist. And I'm like, well, he's exaggerating a bit, but I guess my point is, I think it is a real concern. And I wouldn't expect that if you're working at a university that people see that as a big concern. But I guess I'm just saying, outside the university world, I think it is a huge concern.
No, I think it's a concern. I acknowledge that. I'm not denying that that's a thing. I'm telling you, though, from the inside, that I think that it's overblown. I think that the fears on the right that we're trying to co-opt your children are, I don't see that. There are examples of that. You can point to that. I think most of our faculty members, they're here to do their research, to educate students, to do their thing. And I don't think it's fair to ask them to check their own beliefs at the door. You wonder, why is it 30-1? I mean, what is that? Maybe.
Yeah. And has that always been the case?
I'm going to say yes. People were pissed at the universities and they closed them down during the Vietnam War. People were pissed at universities during the McCarthy era. People were pissed at universities during the 30s and thinking that they were hotbeds of communism. So it's not new.
But it's also one of those things that it's not going to change because everybody that is hiring everybody is of the same ilk. So, it's kind of, there's not really any way to change that. It's not going to change.
No, and I don't know that it would. I think that
I don't know. I know this is going to sound like, I'm going to make a university person's blood boil, but I also think, I don't think every kid needs to go to college.
I agree.
It's probably a blasphemous thing to say to you, but
not at all. I mean, I don't know who you, like it's like a straw man. Like, who are you arguing with? I wouldn't say that every kid needs to go to college at all. I think we've overdone that in this country.
Yeah, it just seems like, and I've seen that in hiring practices and everything else. It seems like there's a huge push for higher education, which I'm not against it. It's same thing. It was very beneficial to me, but I don't think it's for everybody, for sure.
Not at all. And I admit that I live in a bubble, but I don't know anybody who says or even believes that. I'm at a pretty elite university right now, and I've been at other universities that were less so before. And so one of the things that's out there, again, I just don't know anybody who thinks that every kid ought to go to college or that's the right choice for every kid. I know people that's jobs are filling seats in college programs that don't think that every kid ought to go to college. So I don't know where that's coming from. You're going to see some real problems in this country, though, and I think people need to buckle up for this. And I think that's why I worry about the message persecution of Columbia. So what's going to happen in this country, especially in the Midwest and the Northeast, over the next, say, 10 years, is colleges and universities are going to go bankrupt in droves. And the reason is that we have a lot fewer entering freshmen now. There are a lot of kids that were not born during the 2008 housing crisis, and they're not getting born in arrears, right? Like there was a big dip in the birth rate. This should be another topic for another 6 podcast series because I'm on this. Our fertility rate in this country is plummeting. That's going to have an unbelievable set of seismic consequences for our country down the road. But the tip of the spear you're going to see is that right around now, next year, 2026, people were not having kids in 2028, and the birth rate has plummeted and stayed down. Now, it's less of a problem in the South and in the West, in part because of immigration providing a pathway to a healthy population in those areas. But you're going to see, mark my words, we had a small university in Iowa folded 2 years ago. The institution that I got my graduate degree from closed up shop and ended business about 4 years ago. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see consolidations of small colleges, and you're going to see things slamming together. Big elite universities are going to be fine because they always skim the cream, the top kids off. But there is going to be competition, intense competition for students, and that's likely to lead to colleges out of desperation recruiting students who probably should go to trade school. Right? I think that's a valid point.
Can I interrupt you? I don't want to divert you, but I am curious. So, like in business, when there's a downturn and businesses struggle, you start seeing consolidation and acquisition. Is there such thing as an M&A market in universities? So you could go out and buy universities that are failing? Does that happen? Yeah,
you don't really buy anything. You take on their debt.
Okay.
That's usually how it works. But there is some consolidation of small colleges, and you see things like they band together, they merge a college.
Would you
have a campus downtown and one out? Yeah.
Like if you guys bought one, would you make it like a satellite campus of the big university? Is that what you do, or would you?
probably wouldn't happen for large publics like the one that I work for, because our policy and our governance is driven by an appointed board of regents or trustees, and they're not going to go for that for the most part. You might, this is mostly going to happen among private institutions, small private colleges, where you're going to see a lot of this.
Yeah.
Big publics, when I was in Utah, there was quite a bit of consolidation. Some small colleges got folded up under Utah State University. You're going to see some more of that in public, but really it's the small private colleges where it's really going to show up, and you're going to see a lot of that.
So what do you think about, I mean, go ahead. Oh, you were going down another path. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you talked about the M&A route. I thought you were going to ask, well, when business is slow for companies, they lay people off. And that's true. It's very hard to downsize universities in the short run. Right or wrong, university faculty members have tenure. You can't fire tenured professors without pretty significant cause. You can fire tenured professors for gross misconduct and things like that. But faculty hires should really be considered almost like a capital expense. You're buying a 25-year career of somebody. That's what it's going to be like. You're getting wedded to them. You're going to be with them the whole time. So it's really hard to, most colleges and universities, you can only get rid of faculty members if you permanently close entire programs.
Yeah.
So you shut down a college, you say, we're not teaching English anymore, and we're letting everybody go.
That was going to be my question, but I would think that's a viable path for some of these universities where they have some funky programs. They could kind of bring them, curtail them a bit.
Well, yeah, and there's a wide range of, in terms of the economics of students, tuition, and faculty, some programs are cash cows and some are loss leaders. You have a wide range of those things, but you have to have a certain curriculum to be a college or university, right? You would look at some of the lowest return on investment, if you want to look at it from a business perspective. The humanities are not big money makers. They don't generate a lot of outside revenue in grants. They just cost a lot of money. But I mean, good luck having an engineering university that doesn't teach people how to read, write, speak, or understand anything about history. You kind of have to have these things. So the stuff that is at the core, really, of a liberal education, not liberal versus conservative, but liberal education, what we believe in, starts with the humanities. And the humanities are not the most economical piece of a university.
So what would it do to the university landscape if the decision was made to make it free for everybody to go to college, like some of the other countries? Would it mean? Do you think it would improve the level of education, or negatively impact the quality of education?
Dramatically negatively. I'm very much opposed to that idea. I see no advantage to that.
Wait. So you're a liberal guy and you don't want the government to take over something. Can we get that in writing, sir? I'm giving
absolutely. No, actually, if we wanted to give students more scholarship money, I think that would be fine. But free education, I mean, how do you differentiate between like a flagship public university, like one of the Big Ten, right? Or the little college down the road? There are big quality differences. And if there's no way to differentiate and to compete on dollars, I think that's crazy. I wish the whole thing were cheaper. And what you could do is you could subsidize the universities. Here's where I'll get your government back in there. You could find ways to lower the per unit cost, but still have students have to make some choices, because I don't think, especially in the environment we've got, like where you have countries where it can be free for everybody to go to college, you also have a heavy bureaucratic hand, and you don't allow the proliferation of colleges. You right size your seats, right? Because if you're a country like Germany that's going to pay for everybody's college education, first of all, they're not going to give it to everybody. They've sized their education system so that it's commensurate with their population. We don't have that. We've got more college. Especially in the next 10 years, we got more seats, we got more beds in dorm rooms than we need in this country. And there's no authority that can tell them to shut down. So if you add on top of that, like the gasoline on that fire would be free tuition, because you can go wherever you want. And then what starts happening is, and this happens now to some degree, you're not competing on education. You're competing on swimming pools for the dorms and gourmet food in the residence halls. And you start working on a lot of things that aren't really education quality related. So, no, I think it's a terrible idea. I also think if I'm tipping sacred cows here, I think forgiving student loans was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Again, I would love to see programs that reduce the debt burden to students across the board, that reduce the cost of higher education to students. But the way that was done was, it completely, it was, I think, a terrible thing to really enrich people who ought to pay their fair share.
Well,
we do a decent job. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say it's kind of one of those things. It's like, yeah, there's just a lot of inherent unfairness there, especially somebody that didn't go to college because they couldn't even get a loan. And then,
Yeah.
and, I get the intent, but to your point, I mean, there's other ways to solve that too.
Yeah. But in our system with so little control over things, yeah, I think dumping money into the system is not good for anybody or anything.
Well, maybe, that's it's kind of fascinating because I wonder if do most in the left share your, I guess where I'm going is it's possible that like an issue like this, because most universities are very liberal, it's logical that a lot of folks on the left view the importance of that continuing. I wonder if there's anybody on the right that thinks, well, maybe the government ought to pay for the university, and then they can mandate that there's 15 conservative. I doubt that exists, but it's like. Are
you kidding? It's exactly exists that way in the state that I'm in.
Really,
the legislature and the regents are micromanaging our policy. I mean, the DEI.
Well, but they're not giving. What I meant though is like. If there was a movement up front on the conservative side to pay for college, where I'm going is it's like some of these issues, like where you would think the left would go, they go in another direction, and where you think the right would go, they sometimes go in. I doubt that it's going to take place in this discussion, but yeah.
Well, and I'm not speaking for the left. I think you'd find a lot of people that thought student loan forgiveness was a really capital idea, and they think that we ought to make college free for everybody. And I don't think that would be good for our system. I think that there are distinct, going to college or not, that's a big distinction within our society. And it changes where you are socioeconomically. But the difference between going to college or not going to college is probably a smaller difference than the difference between going to a really good college and a mediocre college.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's fascinating. Now, maybe I'm just saying this to justify the master's degree that I got at a no top tier university, but it was Central Michigan. It wasn't horrible, but somebody was explaining it like, and you could probably say this a lot more eloquently, but like masters, like an MBA is one of those things. Like if you could get an MBA at Harvard or Michigan, like in the top 10 or top 20, like there's a tangible monetary value to that. But the difference between like the ranking number 50 and the ranking number 100 probably doesn't matter a hell of a lot. Would you agree with that?
I would. In fact, I'd even go further than that there's a point at which business schools are a really interesting one. So ratings, like U.S. News, it's all bullshit. Write it down. All of the rankings that you've ever read of colleges and universities are pure bullshit. in part because their methodology is inherently flawed. There's no way to compare. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you could take business schools and you could say median salary 10 years out of school, right? Like that might be the only thing that you could really measure. But there's a whole lot of things that factor into these college rankings. But if you, and they'll disclose it a little bit. The one that blew my mind was the first time I saw that like 30% of the rankings in one of these categories was reputation and what do other people say. In other words, we asked 50 business school faculty who are the really good business schools, and they were all like, well, Harvard and Wharton and University of Chicago are really good. And like people just like they just quote the old thing, and that's 30% of the rankings of who do other people say are good. So it's insane. But there's the leaders of the pack, and then there's the herd of the next 20, 30, or 40 schools that are trying to make their move this year, right? And you get past that, and there's a valley that you get into, and pretty soon you get down to some smaller, like regional publics. I think for an undergraduate student, if you're getting a bachelor's degree, yeah, if you can get into a top school, that's great. If you can get into a flagship university, that's great. If you can't, or if you don't want to, if you're not cut out for a campus with 50,000 people, regional publics like Central Michigan is one of those, can offer really extraordinary education for normal students, right? Because you get faculty members that aren't just consumed with the latest and greatest or trying to put points on the board. You find people that really do care about students. And so there's a lot of nuance in that. The ratings just are really toxic. And
the small schools is you looked at going to that St. Olaf College, right? Like a really small school has a lot of again, you work for a large university, but I mean, these small schools, it is a unique experience, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. My final two choices for colleges were St. Olaf, that I think maybe has 4,000 students, and Michigan State, that at the time I was there had 45,000 students, and it's probably a few more now. So not a lot of middle ground than what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You can tell I love this game. I love the role that universities play in our country. What I actually wanted to talk about, and I don't mean to rank it back, but the thing that scared me so much about the grants, I did read that they allowed some of the NSF and NIH grants to continue. The thing that I take your point. You're not alone in thinking that universities are liberal and worried about your kids going there. But again, I'm telling you, the business of an R1 university is like curing cancer and unlocking what's going on in the mind. It's the research that pays the bills. It's the research that drives things. It's the research that gets you tenure and gets you advanced. And what these universities have done, and this is the thing, say what you want to about they're liberal and they're bad. There's never been in the history of the world an engine of scientific discovery that advances humankind and advances health than the modern system of American universities with the partnership and funding with NIH and NSF.
Opposing that viewpoint, there's also a lot of fluff. I mean, there's curing cancer. There's also a lot of BS programs as well. I think as I was reading about this, I think what will make or break this, and it'll be interesting to see, is because there haven't been many details. I haven't been able to find out, like, what are the 400 million in grants? Like, what are the projects that are at risk? I do think that if, it comes out that, they cut all the cancer research funding, you're going to get backlash. You're going to get people that are pissed, and it's going to sway public opinion. Conversely, if it comes back that, it's, gender studies in rats or something, I think people are going to be less consumed by it. So, but
yeah, you're right. Although even it just, as you can imagine, boils my blood when I hear these things, like these trivial studies that go on. And people just seem to not understand how research works. You read like the one line of a of a research grant. So I'll give you an example. Zebrafish are widely used in vision research. And so you could probably find on the NIH website that our country has probably given $5 million to somebody who's studying zebrafish. And some Yahoo is going to rankle that paper in the Congress and say, see, we're funding zebrafish research. But dumbass, here's the thing about zebrafish: their eye tissue regenerates at like a 100 times rate of humans, but the tissue is comparable. So you use zebrafish to study retinal changes in humans because you don't want to wait for people to get 80 and test their eyes. But this is the kind of thing that you see all the time, and it just this conventional wisdom that, oh, these universities are just all basket weaving and nonsense. I'm telling you that you see things like that. Was it Trump who was all up in arms this week about the transgenic mice? Did you hear this story?
A little bit, yeah.
He was railing against transgenic mice as though that was a cultural issue. Just for the record, there's a difference between transgenic mice and transgendered mice. Transgenic mice are specific mice that are bred with particular genetic disorders so that we can study them and we don't have to test stuff.
But I am curious from you. Do you think there are research grants at universities that are frivolous, or is your contention that all of them have a noble purpose and shouldn't be challenged? I guess I'm curious your thoughts there.
I think that those that are frivolous, I think it's far likelier that you're going to see something and think it's frivolous and not have read past the first 4 words and realize what's going on. Could we scour and find examples of nonsense grants? Of course. But I don't think it's very common. Grant funding doesn't just grow on trees these days. That's the other thing, that it is extremely competitive for faculty members to get these grants. And the ones that people are most worried about are the ones in the humanities where the least money is there. And I don't think that a couple of side anecdotes really tell the story of what's going on.
Well, I think that will be interesting to see. Eventually it'll come out what these studies are that they canceled. And it'll be also interesting to see if they don't get reinstated because the president of Columbia is taking action. So
are you on team hang Amy Coney Barrett?
No, I don't know anything about that. I haven't read that. And
Roberts,
to be clear, I haven't been in the news a lot this week. I've been pretty tied up at work. So what's the latest on this?
Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts joined the liberal justices on the Supreme Court to say that the Trump administration had to pay out from USAID contracts that they've made, and the money had been spent. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, you have to do that. Or actually that a lower court's order would stand that they have to, make good on our obligations. And there have been all kinds of people up in arms that Amy Coney Barrett is literally, I read this, people said she's a closet Democrat, closet communist, that Amy Coney Barrett is a DEI hire on the Supreme Court because they didn't like the way that thing went.
It's about as crazy as calling Donald Trump a KGB asset. It's similar.
Well, the evidence for Amy Coney Barrett being a DEI hire at a secret Democrat mole is not very strong.
Yeah, I did not see any of that. I mean, it seems logical that if you have to spend the money, if the money's already been spent, it does seem logical you got to pay the bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
know. Go ahead.
I would predict highly that you haven't looked at it, but the Doge.gov website is a fascinating website. Have you looked at it at all?
I have not.
It is, it's one of the clearest things I've seen from a government standpoint of like everything that they're cutting. They have, you can click, they've got a list of it all, and you can click on it and it goes straight into a government system and it shows all the contract details. And then there's a that's kind of like the wall of receipts. And then there's another page on spend. That's where I got that Department of Education numbers is pretty interesting. The comparison and the breakdown. There's even a workforce, so like you can hit each branch and it goes through all the people. So whether you think it's stupid or what they're doing and disagree with it's a pretty cool website, if nothing else. So,
well, I'll take a look. I mean, the thing that I said before, and I stand behind my comments on that. I don't think they're serious. I think it's all for show, because the stuff that would really move the needle, you don't just walk in. You can't just fire enough people to make it pay.
I mean, I guess I would say though, they're 30 days into what they've said is an 18-month commitment. They're at 105 billion. I mean, it's not going to be chump change. And the thing is, it's all right there in front of you. Like, because people are like, oh, they're cutting this, they're cutting that. Well, it's all right there. I mean, what they cut is it's about as transparent as you could get. I mean, you can certainly say, well, I disagree that they shouldn't have cut this or they shouldn't bother with this, but I mean, it's pretty comprehensive.
Well, yeah, I guess I stand by my statement though, until there are aircraft carriers and F-35s on the list. Like, are we really serious about this? Can you fire enough National Park Rangers to cover those others?
What's going to tell the difference is what's the deficit this year? I mean, it's a hard and fast number. They're either going to, the deficit in 2014 is 1.8 trillion. I mean, if it's $1 trillion, then it was impactful. I mean,
yeah. I mean, there's also, this is another topic, and I don't want to go down this path. I'm gravely concerned about empowering the presidency with the ability to not spend money that Congress has apportioned for those things. I think that kind of undercuts the Constitution. And
okay, but are we okay with them spending more?
No, but they can't spend more. They don't spend more than Congress approved.
There's a lot of administrative rulemaking that creates a lot of expenditures that Congress doesn't approve every single line item.
You got to approve the whole budget, though, right?
I'm just saying there's a lot of the fluff that exists is because of all the administrative rulemaking that wasn't congressionally based.
Yeah. Well, that could be. I don't know enough to say. I just, I think I said this in one of our texts. Here's the thing that I worry about. You've got 4 years to do this. And I saw Donald J. Trump Jr. is getting ready to run for 2028. And so if he's able to get the next 8 years, you got 12 years. I'm not sure that there's a zero chance that a Democrat will win sometime in the next 3 elections. And I'm telling you, as a Democrat, the Democrats do not have the spending discipline to have that level of control. You're going to elect a Democrat president, and this is what I don't understand. Again, another day's podcast topic. But my gosh, if you believe that you're never going to have another Democrat president, then all of this consolidation and the power of the executive should make you happy. If you believe that it's possible that a Democrat will ever win again, you should be scared to death, because all of this power that we're handing to the presidency flip-flops the day after the inauguration. And I hope that this podcast is successful and that we can monetize it 8 years from now. And I'm telling you, we're going to elect the Democrat.
What power, though? I guess I'm not following. Like, what power are we giving to the president he didn't have already?
The power to impose tariffs that's been congressional. The power to abrogate treaties that the Senate signed. I don't know. I mean, you don't disagree that there's been a pretty rampant move to aggregate the power of the presidency under Trump.
Or do you, I mean, I think the way I see it and many others see it is that we got a president that is doing things. You had a guy for the last 4 years that was brain dead.
Okay, but if you're going to run...
And he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I mean, it's not a shocker that he's doing the things he's doing.
Right, but if he chooses not to allow money to be spent that was appropriated by Congress, it's a violation of the Constitution. Congress has the power of the purse.
I mean, we have courts. Courts have stopped them in other areas.
Well, and I think they will in this too. But I just, no fear. Seriously, no fear.
I think if the Democrats want to return to office, being the party of defending waste is a bad look.
I agree with you there, and I hope you don't think that I'm defending.
No, I know
waste.
you're not. I'm not talking
I'm
about
telling
you. I'm
you,
just
the
talking
problem
about
is that they're not serious. They're not cutting the things that really cost money. Park rangers don't cost us money, not like aircraft carriers.
I'm looking
do.
at thousands of contracts that add up to $100 billion. So I'm not looking at park rangers. There's a lot of other spend. I guess I'm just saying, like, I think of, I didn't watch the address to Congress because I didn't get a chance to, but, just reading after the fact, like the look that they're portraying, it's not a good look. I mean,
Agree. No, that was stupid. I mean,
I tell you, who I would vote for as a Democrat, and I'm really beginning to like, and you may not, but I never thought I would, but I'm really beginning to appreciate Fetterman. He's an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's the real deal. He's not just a talking point. Look,
Yeah.
I firmly believe that I'm smarter than most Democrats. Like I'm
Kent,
not
I
kidding
would
myself.
vote. I would vote for a liberal Democrat if it was you. So I think you need to run. You're late in your career. Move on to the next thing. You honestly, have you ever thought about running for office?
Yeah. So Beck and I had this not this conversation about running for office. I got to admit that like the people that make it are people that start off on like the school board and the city council. And I love my town. I love the schools. Like it's hard for me to get excited about like zoning. So I'm probably not going to be able to go through the pathway.
I disagree though. I mean, I'm not disagreeing because of the podcast, but there are people that run for Congress that never were in office before and say, hey, I'm going to make a difference. You're a great I'm not just sucking up here. You're a great communicator. You're the smartest guy I know. I disagree with most of what you say, but I would campaign the shit out of for you, even though I disagreed with you. I could see me doing like a campaign stop and, well, what do you think about this? Well, I totally disagree with this, but this guy is awesome. Let me tell you.
I think he's wrong as hell, but you should
you should really vote for him.
No, I mean, I wonder. Thank you. That was really kind of you to say, but I wonder. Like, I kind of believe maybe it happens. Maybe lightning strikes once in a while. In general, the people that rise to Congress or to Senate from both parties, I think are like soulless whores for the most part. Like, I don't think.
And honestly, that's why I think you'd be an executive is where you'd go, is governor, or and that's where you can, back to the power discussion, but I mean, that is where you could make a big difference for sure.
Yeah. I thank you for your kind words. I don't think I see a path.
Especially if you are to pursue your the pastime that you say you want to pursue of living on a boat. I mean, maybe you could be the governor of Jamaica or something. I don't know, but I don't know if it's a governor or president.
Yeah. Well, we didn't solve much. I
guess before you go, I did think it was a good dialogue. I don't pretend to know nearly. I know a smidgen about universities, obviously based on your profession and what you do, but I appreciate the dialogue. I mean, there's stuff that concerns me, and to your point, maybe if I was on the other side, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But I can see some things here, but I can see where you're coming from as well. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just it strikes a bone to me because the entire time, my whole career, I get these things of people that just want to bag on universities and they're just ivory towers and they just they're all liberals and they do stupid stuff for grant money. And then I zoom out and I look at what has happened out of university research in this country and the kinds of things that we have, the pharmaceuticals alone, the drugs alone that we have that are born not only out of pharmaceutical company research, but on-campus research things, the healthcare that comes out of this, the kinds of benefits that we see as a society. And I just like, it's a good bargain to me. It really is. And it pisses me off and it makes me defensive when I hear people making what I think are uninformed slams on university culture, it's a different kind of place. It is a liberal place, and you got to deal with that. But I think it goes, look, and fully backing up to where we started with this, I fully admit that universities have struggled to be even-handed in the application of the First Amendment to conservative voices. It's hard because it does rub people the wrong way. And candidly, we've got a body that have a view of things. Our students are often more liberal than the administration. You think it's the administration driving it. Trust me, it's the students that are pushing this stuff. And we do struggle with that. But my gosh, the value to our society is just enormous to me, and it's a extremely valuable institution. And I just worry about the politicization of universities. It's an easy talking point, an easy pick on, but it's not a good thing for our society to lose this huge advantage that we have.
Well, as always, we agree to disagree, but enjoyed the conversation, Kent.
Yeah, likewise. Well, we'll have to break some of this other stuff out. I will put a teaser out there. The declining birth rate, and do a little futurism. I'm telling you.
You sound like Elon Musk, Kent, about the declining birth rate.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's done more to solve that than I have. But honestly, I think that we are not ready for the economic changes that are going to hit us. And I think universities are the tip of the spear. We're going to see it first, and you're going to experience a little of this. It's going to be scary in this country, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, neither one of us can have more babies at this point. So.
Our role in this eternal drama has come to an end.
That's right.
As has this podcast. It's good talking to you, Kyle.
Same, Kent. Talk soon.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.